I got two for you today. Okay, so I got into the 2XKO Alpha. I've gotten to play it a lot for the last couple of days. I've tried out pretty much most of the characters except for Ilawi, even though I really want to try out Ilawi. I've gotten a hand of the systems. I've done a long-ass combo without Pulse, so I'm ready to give a few thoughts. And obviously, first off, if you don't know what 2XKO is, it's the new fighting game from Riot, who are the makers of League of Legends and Valorant. It has a lot of characters from the League of Legends universe in it. It's a 2v2 fighter developed by some of the most brilliant minds in fighting games, fans and huge people in the fighting game community, mainly Tom and Tony Cannon, who are heading the project. It's been in development for a while. It's the Riot free-to-play fighting game savior, a lot of people feel. And there's been a lot of anticipation building up to this game even being available for anyone. So luckily I got to get a code and try it out for the last few days, but there's been a lot of discourse circulating online around this game and how people feel about it. A lot of different things. First off, that it's too hard, that the combos are too long, that it may be a little bit difficult for people to get into if they're brand new to fighting games. It looks really, really pretty. What's the matchmaking like? There are different needling points, so I thought I'd give my 2 cents. So first off, it's 2v2, right? It's either you pick 2 characters, or if you're playing co-op with another person, you pick a character and your partner picks a character. And in general, you have a point character, the character's on screen, and then you have an assist character that can come out and do assists, like 1 or 2 different moves that can help you in the middle of a match. Like they can throw out a projectile and you can run behind it, or they can, while you're in the middle of a combo, you can have somebody come up and they throw little projectiles down while the person's blocking to keep them in block stun while you switch sides. It's one of those, it's a very Marvel-like. And if you're playing with somebody else, you can be the person who calls the assist in. You can do this thing called a handshake tag, where if you come in as an assist and you're hitting the other person, if you press the assist button again, you tag in for them. It's a great way to kind of build teamwork. And when you're playing with another person, that the game really shines in co-op. Like, that's really fun. Being able to communicate with your teammate, being able to set up plays. There also is something to be said about having 2 minds on a problem versus 1, because if you're getting rushed down by one person and they're throwing all these crazy things at you, right? Having another person there to kind of discern what's going on without, you know, the mental stack is really good. Also, the characters are generally interesting and very, very cool to play. I will say the movement is kind of weird. It's very Marvel-esque movement. So if you're pushing the stick front and back, it's not going to net you a very fast movement speed. There's dash button, or you can press 2 buttons to dash forward and backwards, and it makes it very, very cool. There's air dashes in the game. It's a very movement fluid game. And it takes a second to get used to, but once you get used to it, it's very fun. Matches right now are kind of long. People have these kind of combo strings that cancel in, so all of the attacks kind of cancel into each other, and then you can knock them up and do a special move. If you have a certain type of fuse, right before you start the match, you pick one type of fuse, just kind of like a special little power up, like, oh, when your health goes below 40%, you get a damage increase, or you can cancel your special into your partner's special, just stuff like that. But yeah, you can do these long canceled strings into a special. You have a burst thing where if you press the special move button and the assist button, then you do this burst to get somebody off you. Also, the special moves are 1 button, so like there's special 1 and special 2, so you press special 1 in a direction and that gives you something. So it's not like a lot of motion inputs for people, like not right off the bat. Look, there's a lot of mechanics in the game, as you can see, right? Even with the 1 button specials, there's a ton of mechanics in the game. They're not insane to try to keep track of. It's not like, oh my God, I have to read an encyclopedia, or you're playing Guilty Gear, but it is overwhelming at first glance. Like, I'm not going to lie. As somebody who's played fighting games before, it's pretty easy and it's very lovely to sink my teeth into, because I liked Marvel vs. Capcom in some of these games. So once you get the hang of it, it is very fun kind of going around screen and figuring this stuff out and going into the combo lab and letting and expressing yourself in a combo. Every time I've seen people do combos, there's not one optimal I've seen. There's been like 4 or 5 different versions of every character's combo that really make it shine. At the same time, though, these are long strings that you have to learn. So it feels a little bit like homework before you can go out and really have fun. There is this fuse called Pulse, where it's just auto combo, where if you knock somebody, you can just keep pressing the button and you'll do an auto combo. But for a lot of people, that feels a little bit cheap. You're going to outgrow that eventually. I don't think that should be locked behind like a special power-up. It should just be an alternative scheme for the game. We've seen how modern controls like that can help a lot of people get into the game. And look, this is all kind of leading to the main question, which is, A, is it fun? B, is it too hard? Yes, it is fun. It can be very, very fun and very, very addicting, kind of, going back and forth and figuring out the other character and the way the characters look on screen. And whenever you get a hit, it's super satisfying. I will admit, it is a little overwhelming sometimes, and it is a little hard. I don't think it's too hard for somebody to get the grasp of, but there needs to be one or two little hooks in there to help get new players up to speed, right? Like when you're playing Marvel vs. Capcom, the first hook that you get is, oh my God, I'm fucking Spider-Man and Ryu. What? What do you mean Captain America is teaming up with the Monster Hunter person? What? Akuma and Doctor Doom? What? Seeing those characters do cool shit on screen and seeing how crazy it gets with giant beams and over the top supers, watching Phoenix Wright do a special, those are really fucking cool. And that aesthetic and that power fantasy keeps you going. There is this power fantasy in 2XKO, but it's not Marvel, it's League, which is still widely beloved, and there's a lot of really, really cool characters in this thing with brimming with personality. Let's not kid ourselves here. But it just needs to be tweaked a bit so it's kind of a little bit easier to move around the screen. It's easier to feel like when you get a hit, you can do a lot of really hits very, very quickly. I know Pulse helps with that, but it needs to feel like the barrier of entry isn't so high so that when you start into it, you can have a little bit of fun, and then when you hit your first wall, which is somebody kicking your ass, you're like, okay, this isn't so I could probably get to that. That's how Street Fighter hooks you. That's honestly how Marvel hooks you. That's how all of these games hook you, where you start playing and you're like, well, that's not insane. I've seen that move done before. Well, so I kind of, well, how do I do it? Once you know something's achievable, of course you're going to do it. That's how a Souls-like game works. Like, okay, other people can do this. I can probably do this too. And once you achieve it, you're there. I'm not saying dumb down the game. I'm just trying to make a couple more pathways in. I do think the matches are a little long. They're fun, but they are a little long. That's something that's definitely going to be addressed. And one thing that they've talked about is touch of deaths. And they've said that a couple people have found touch of death combos where you just get one hit and then the character's dead if they use a lot of resources and stuff like that. As somebody who played Marvel vs. Capcom 3, which is just built on one touch death, I'm not a big fan of that. I don't like the fact that somebody can just get you into a combo string for a minute and you're just like, oh, well, okay, fuck, okay. I love the player expression of back and forth. I kind of liked how Dragon Ball FighterZ did it for a while. Like at one point it was like, you get a bunch of damage on somebody and then you have like 2 or 3 decisions before it's death. And yeah, having that dynamic I think would be really fun. And I think it's very close to being able to get there. So listen, the bones of it and the ideas are solid. They need to be tweaked a little bit. They need to be made a little bit more accessible for people who are not like super into fighting games like myself. Not that people won't get into it. I think they will, but I do think that there just needs to be a little bit more work done there. But overall, having a lot of fun with the game. Love the character diversity. Loved the gameplay concepts. Echo is such a fucking cool character who can kind of have his after image and then go back into his after image and do a bunch of cool shit. Darius feels really good when you get a solid hit there. The netcode, I know sometimes the matchmaking is kind of wonky, but they're working on it. Overall, a pretty solid alpha. Like if this is the alpha of the game and you're just trying to figure out what's going on with it, it's pretty good. I don't think it's a pretty solid attempt. And I'm excited to see where they go with it and what they iterate on. And like I said, I do want to stream this. I didn't stream it yesterday because I was tired. But I will be streaming it this week. If you want to tune in and watch me, come on in. But anyway, if you play 2XKO, let me know what you think in the comments. Real quickly, we're right near the end of summer. And around this time, I like to look at travel spots because travel becomes more affordable to certain places. And I've been really itching to just get a little bit of time away for my mental health. But as we know, there are a lot of different small little costs that add up when it comes to travel in general. And one of those things is the magic square that gives me all of the info forever. But there may be a way to reduce a lot of that burden thanks to the sponsor of today's show, Saily. We've talked about Saily before on a couple of other shows, but they are an incredibly helpful service. Saily is an eSIM card. It's an app you get on your phone that gives you access to the internet in 150 different countries without drowning you in fees for roaming. It's compatible with iOS and Android, and is one of the best ways to not have to hop from Wi-Fi spot to Wi-Fi spot, especially in a different country where it's a little bit tough to get around. And Saily is super easy to use. You download it once, you don't got to download a new SIM card for every single country, and you have an internet connection right at your fingertips immediately. And that Wi-Fi problem is an issue in certain spaces. I remember a while back I was traveling in Austria, and if you don't know, Austria has a lot of really cool cafes in Vienna, and trying to find certain cafes was very, very tough, especially because my fucking phone plan was crazy expensive. I kind of wish I had something like this way back when I was traveling. And it's going to be an essential part of my toolkit when I go traveling, probably later this year. And listen, if you go to saily.com/Zed and enter in the code Zed, the first 5,000 people there will get a free 1 gigabyte plan on Saily to try out for free. Easy to make calls abroad, easy to access the internet. It's great. So listen, if you're looking to travel this year, if you're looking to make your magic information square a lot more useful to you overseas, and if you like me rapping news and telling you about stuff, go to saily.com/Zed, enter in the code Zed, and give your vacation a little bit of breathing room. All right, back to Zed Talks. But let's very quickly talk about TikTok, because there is a giant civil war going on that has continued over the last 3 weeks. TikTok has been having a little bit of a leftward commentator civil war around the decision of whether or not to vote for Kamala Harris due to the situation in Gaza. People are accusing those who feel tepid or a little bit turned off on voting for Harris as fetishizing the revolution without much of a plan for the specifics and enabling Trump, who would be worse on Gaza, while others have said many of the people pushing for a vote on Harris don't really care about Palestine or the plight of the Palestinian peoples and are actually just liberals and performative. But to be honest, both are giant accusations of performative activism from both camps, right? And it's been rapidly heating up with creators like we talked about, Machino Dorito getting ethered. He deserved it though. Fuck that guy. As well as more and more criticism coming to Harris and her rallies. You may have seen some of the infighting in our comments here and there. We have a pretty inclusive space. Everybody gets to talk and have an opinion here, and it's great. But there were definitely a lot of conflicting opinions about the protests at Harris's rallies. But all that to say, over the last few days, it kind of came to a head with a debate between two TikTok creators, Tori Grier and Maya Ayooni. So let's start with Maya. Maya is a well-known Palestinian activist. She also posts lifestyle content, and she's advocated against political Zionism and done her best to try to fight against the situation in Gaza. She genuinely does have a personal stake in this, and a lot of her content has been geared to trying to find solutions to help people there and talking about the entire situation going on. On the other side, we have Tori Grier, a lesser-known TikTok creator. She didn't really have a ton of followers before this. She was pretty unknown, but she's not afraid to give her opinion. She posts a lot, and she engages with her commentators pretty frequently. So Tori posted a TikTok a few days ago signaling that she's voting for Kamala Harris. Within the comments, you have quite a few people saying, well, if that's the case, take the Palestinian flag out of your name, as if she doesn't really fucking care. To which she makes a TikTok responding, okay, I'll do that. Now, this received a lot of different responses, to which Maya responded saying,
out of your bio, because the woman was supporting Palestine and had the Palestinian flag in her bio. And her response was, okay, I'm never going to support Palestine again. You can't listen to Palestinians telling you that Kamala Harris funded and supported our genocide. Therefore, we are not voting for her. Therefore, we are not going to support her publicly. If you can hear us say that and your reaction is, well, I don't care about Palestine. I'm never going to talk about it again. I'm never going to support you guys again. You're a really bad person and you never actually cared about Palestine. People treat politics like it's just like a trend. Like it's really cute to be like, I love Biden, I hate Biden, I hate Kamala, I love Palestine, I hate Palestine. Palestine isn't a trend because thousands of Palestinians are dying every day.
Now that set Tori off. She claimed it was a sneak diss and that Maya was lying.
Well, hello, it's the person of color that you saw on your page that you came over here to lie about, because I didn't say, okay, I'm never going to support them again. I said, I'm never going to say anything about it again. That's what I said, which doesn't mean I withdraw my support, which means that I'm not vocally going to be on here and be harassed by people when I say that I'm going to vote for Kamala Harris. And if they're saying I can't vote for her and support Palestine by having the flag in my bio, then I would take it down. But I like how you want to take that over there to your 2.1 million people and just lie. But of course you didn't say who it was.
And it all came to a head with both girls coming to a live, with Tori confronting Maya on her live. However, during the live, Maya was accused, well, many people felt that she was incredibly condescending, interrupting Tori a whole bunch, even muting her at one point and telling her, you get to speak after she got to have her say.
Say those words, yes or no. It's a yes or no question.
I'm not going to speak to you if you're going to speak.
You don't have, no, I don't have to be respectful for you when you took me to your 2.1 million followers and then you're going to come on here and play a victim.
I'm not going to speak to you.
Only centering your cause and what the hell you want. But you don't want to talk to me because you don't have that passion.
I do want to talk to you,
but
does this feel like we're talking?
You literally said, I'm glad she took it out because you're not going to listen to Palestinian people when they're telling you that we do not want to vote for Kamala Harris because she is funding our genocide. Please let me finish what I'm saying. Please stop trying to cut me off. Why are you on here talking about it? Because you care.
Oh my God, I just want to say one thing. I'm just going to say one thing and then I'll unmute you. In my follow-up video, those were not Palestinian people telling you to take Palestine out of your bio. Those were not Palestinian people.
What do y'all want us to do as Black Americans when y'all are coming into our comment section and you're saying it's not Palestinians, but you jump right on that boat?
What I need to not do is say we, because I never told you not to vote for Kamala Harris. You're saying y'all as if I said that.
You literally said Palestinians. You said you weren't speaking just for yourself. You were not speaking just for yourself. So that's why I'm saying y'all. Why don't you understand that? Should have never brought me up. You probably thought it would be sweet because I was a small content creator and you have 2.1 million followers.
A lot of people saying that Maya was tone policing her, trying to paint Tori as the angry Black woman. Dozens of Black women and African-American creators not happy with that. This went everywhere on TikTok, with multiple creators accusing Maya of being incredibly rude and not seeing things fully through. And other really condescending comments, like at one point Maya's, do you know who Benjamin Netanyahu is? Came off really fucking, that's, dude. Not to mention Maya posting another TikTok afterwards trying to be all kumbaya about it, saying we creators should get along and they're trying to tear us apart. And it honestly seems that the vast majority of people, including Palestinian activists, are very upset with Maya. A large amount of Palestinian activists I followed and seen seem really annoyed with her. The other argument being that Maya is policing a Black woman over her vote that affects that Black woman's life and her well-being, and equating that vote to being against Palestine is wrong when it's an impossible decision. Many people even going so far as to say that many of these Palestinian activists are cool with being anti-Black when it comes to their activism, but when specifically Black-related issues and intersectionality come into play, those issues are ignored. Now, that doesn't mean Maya has nobody on her side. There were some creators who backed Maya pretty aggressively, but ultimately Maya apologized. Tori ended up with 40,000 followers. Multiple people are fighting online over who's a leftist, who isn't, who's a liberal, who really cares about Palestine, who's fake. Does this sound familiar? And listen, the reason I bring this up, and I know it's TikTok drama to an extent, right? Like, I don't like to be a drama channel, but it's also spilling into talking points and a lot of political discourse around this election. These are people with large followings. They're not going to tilt the scales everywhere, but the things they make do end up on different sites and different pieces of social media and influence people. So look, let me give my thoughts on Maya and Tori first, and then I'll give you my thoughts on the broader situation, okay? So number one, if you watch the live, and it's cut up into different pieces on TikTok, I found the first, like this long stretch of it, which I kind of watched to get the context of it, which I'll link below. From very early on, it seems that, yeah, Maya is being incredibly condescending and is tone policing Tori a lot. That's not wrong. Like I brought up, the do you know who Benjamin Netanyahu is? Incredibly condescending. She keeps interrupting Tori, and then her decision to mute Tori is also pretty shitty. Like, that's also a really weird thing to do, because at one point she just treats her like a child, like, okay, you can talk now. I will let you speak. I know it's your live technically and you can do that, but the dynamic that sets up and the dynamic you portrayed is that, hey, we're going to have a conversation, not I'm controlling this and I will tell you when you can speak, like you're trying to teach or something. And I can understand why Maya would be a little bit overwhelmed, because Tori is a fierce person when she's in a debate. But that doesn't exclude Maya's actions of trying to equate her with a traitor to the cause, or at least insinuate that. And as for Tori, I'm not trying to tone police her. Tori has a right to be upset when somebody wants the smoke. They should get the smoke. But Tori talks a lot and gives a lot of people the smoke. Again, I would know. I do the same thing in the comments. So listen, Game recognized game. But with that, you have to know that some people are going to be taken aback and a little overwhelmed when you're giving them that smoke. And some people aren't ready for it. Again, not tone policing, I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just, it's a thing that is there. I'm not saying she's the angry black woman, but I am saying that when you're calling somebody out really intensely on IG or TikTok live, it'll catch them off guard and they'll act in certain ways that they shouldn't necessarily sometimes. Again, I would know. But who's in the wrong? What does it all mean? What in the discourse, how does this sit? I think we're back to something I was trying to say a couple of episodes back. A lot of people think there's only one way to be an activist, right? You have to be a radical, aggressive, disruptive force to push people in power into doing what you want them to do, or just people in general into doing what you want them to do so they break out of their routine. And yes, that is an effective form of protest. Historically, there are results to that. Also, there are other forms of activism that work. Saying you want to vote in an election for Kamala Harris isn't saying you don't care about what's going on with the Palestinian people. There are tangible effects and progress that you get with voting, and you can't just ignore little victories and say it's all a wash, right? If you feel that they need to go farther, of course they need to go farther, but don't ignore and act like they have not happened at all. Yes, I have read the headlines. Yes, I see what is going on. And yet again, like telling Zionists, yeah, I condemn Hamas, I have to remind certain activists, I've been following this situation longer than most of you. I've been following the situation in Palestine since 2003, actively since 2003. Creating that parallel ignores all of the context and the consequences of the situation and situates it within your own personal moral conundrum. It's a straw man argument taking Trump will make this impossible and erode rights of women and minorities and African Americans and people who live in this country. But Kamala can be reasoned with on certain foreign policy issues like this. She's been open to it, to, oh, by the way, you don't care about Palestinians and you're pro-genocide. That's, bro, again, this isn't an argument of who's a real leftist or who's a secret liberal, right? It's who's anti-leftist and anti-liberal, who is in service to the people who are in pain, and who just wants to burn shit down. FYI, if you want to burn shit down, I'm not saying that you're disingenuous. I'm saying you are genuine. It's just that's your goal. It's not like you feel this is the silver bullet that solves all problems. Nobody reasonable wants a genocide. Like, that's just a fact. Like, nobody reasonable wants a genocide. And most of the time people arguing that are arguing in bad faith. Secondly, and I will say this, to the credit of a lot of people who are upset about being pressured into voting, the situation is actually worse than you think in Palestine and Gaza. You've seen pictures, it's worse. Trust me, it's worse. If you read up a little bit more on it, it's really, really bad. So you have to empathize and understand that even with the stray picture you see online that makes you feel bad, it is so much worse, because when you dig deeper, there are details that are horrific. So their anger is valid. But when it comes to valid activism or valid protest, both sides of this argument, I hate to do a both sides thing, but it is fucking true. Both sides of this coin of what you should do in this situation are arguing, hey, your method of doing things isn't valid, versus how many things can we do to shift this whole thing? Like, what are all of the things we can do and push towards to make something happen? It's not attack on all fronts. It's only attack in this lane. By the way, this is common in every fucking protest movement ever, right? This happened during the civil rights movement in the 60s with Martin Luther King and the SNCC's Ella Baker, who said that King was a media figure who had lost touch with the grassroots movement. Stokely Carmichael disagreed with King's idea of racial integration and nonviolence because he felt that black culture had a lot of unique aspects to it that he didn't want diluted. Not everybody agrees on the best way to tackle issues. You have to appeal to different demographics in different ways. People are not a monolith. Disrupting doesn't mean everybody, I'm looking at you, Just Stop Oil. Sometimes when you disrupt certain types of people, they dig their feet in because the way they absorb information isn't the same. I'm not saying coddle them. I'm just saying people absorb information in different ways and move to different stimulus. That's just fact. You don't have to go,
Please, sir, stop being a warmonger.
obviously. But voting does give you power, as does organizing. And I think it's kind of shitty to tell someone to give up what they feel is their best shot at maintaining their rights and then get mad at people for vote shaming you. Like, that's the same thing. Like, are we talking about what's the best way to get what we all want? Or who's the bad guy? Are you the bad guy? That's ridiculous. And I will say this last thing. People who opine for revolution and say, oh, you're just lazy and you have a full belly from their Brooklyn apartment, you fucking booger who wished you could be a real boy, have done fuck all of nothing. I know people who were there during revolutions like the Arab Spring, who were there during tumultuous times like in Pakistan and India during all of that. My mom and her family had to go into hiding. That wasn't fun. Even if they were on the right side of history, they weren't having a ball going through all of that. It isn't fond or inspiring to watch people die and dictators mow down your friends. That's the same fucking logic people who criticize like imperialism and capitalism hate about the, join the army, son. You can make a difference in your country. The same people who fucking hate that nationalism rhetoric, it's the same fucking rhetoric. It's romanticizing a violent cause over humanity. And I get it. Look, there are people who feel like they have no power in the world we have today. And they feel the only way to assert their power is to wear a Che Guevara t-shirt and obstruct everything. And that doesn't mean protest doesn't work. That just means that some people are full of shit and their theories are just like, they live on theory. They feel that having theory and having intelligent will make them like the leader from the fucking Incredible Hulk or Yuri from Yuri's Revenge, or I don't know, some psychic motherfucker, and their brilliant knowledge of theory will somehow get us out of this quagmire. There are also a lot of people who will flip on a dime and say things like, actually, fuck black people, when one black creator calls out their favorite creator for saying something that's kind of racist. And will say things like, you're pro-genocide unless you vote for Jill Stein, when Jill Stein is friends with people like Putin, who have also committed war crimes like the Bucha massacre, the indiscriminate targeting of civilians, the forced torture of UK prisoners. He's murdered journalists and opposition all the time. Don't twist it. She is friends with him. She says she's not, but she willingly went to one of his events and was taking pictures with him and all that shit. Theory alone doesn't help anyone or feed Palestinian kids more than I really hope we get a ceasefire does. Okay? Actions work, not just theory. I'm just getting tired of us saying that, oh, nothing works. Voting doesn't work, or canvassing, or doing all of these things don't work. We know there are structural reasons why a lot of these things have not worked. You can find the exact reasoning of why they don't work and where the stopgap was and why it wasn't fulfilled. And we're just going to ignore that and just say, oh, it doesn't work. People like the uncommitted movement did a valuable amount of pressure. People who felt that Joe Biden shouldn't have been the nominee did a valuable amount of pressure. There are ways to pressure the system. I work in media. I know how to pressure systems, bro. Did we all collectively as a culture pressure Drake into being like, I probably lost that. Like, do you understand? Anyway, that's kind of my take on it. I think that a lot of the infighting is people just trying to stay in their lane of activism. Why not figure out multiple ways to be valid and ways to attack this? And I do think that anybody trying to espouse how their one view of the world is like they're the right side of history, I'm just going to be very honest with you. In 20 years, we will all be on the wrong side of history. We will. We're going to be old people who believe one thing that's actually really fucked up now, and we have to change our viewpoint. Every 3 to 5 years, we figure out, oh, we're kind of being assholes to one group of people, and we have to change our viewpoint. And it's worth it, because if you didn't, you're just a dick. But anyway, that's our show. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. Please go watch last week's episode of Freestyle the News, or this week's episode. I posted it a little bit late. We'll be back on Sunday with another episode. And anyway, My name is Zaid Tabani. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see y'all soon. Let's go. New merch drop on Sunday.